What is happening, wonderful people? So at 28 years later, The Bone Temple releasing in theaters officially tomorrow. I thought it'd be fun to rank all of the films in the 28 days or 28 years later franchise. So let's talk about it.
What's your favorite scary movie?
So when it comes to the 28 years or 28 days later franchise, besides one of them I'm excited to talk about. The other three I'm just kind of okay with. So overall, the franchise as a whole, these movies as a whole, besides one of them, again, we'll talk about that one in a little bit, I'm just okay with this franchise. I'm very late to this franchise. I watched, the first one I watched was obviously the original last year, leading up to 28 years later, because before they released a trailer for 28 years later, I didn't know much about this franchise. I knew it was like a zombie type franchise, so I knew of it, but I hadn't seen any of the films. And when it comes to the other three films that I just kind of think are fine, they're not horrible by any means. I don't think this franchise is abysmal. I don't think it's terrible. It's just not my cup of tea. I like zombie movies, I do, and I think there are some really great things about each of these films. But coming in at number 4 in last place is 28 Days Later. And again, I think there are some good things about this movie. I think Cillian Murphy is great in here. I think all of the actors in here, all of the performances are great, and it's legit creepy. And I feel like, my main issue with it, and I always talk about how Danny Boyle, I think he's a good director, but I always talk about how, he is a nuance, he's very detail oriented, which is good, that is good, but I'm just not the biggest fan of him using a camcorder for the first film. I know that may sound petty, and I don't want that to sound petty, but I'm someone who's a film fan, I'm a film buff, and I demand to see a movie filmed with the camera. And I think it's scary, it is intense, it's brutal, it's very, very gory. It's kind of unique and different from other zombie films. Like, you don't see many zombie films in London, so it does have a kind of artistic flair to it, and it kind of is unique in its own sense, but I just really couldn't capture, the story didn't capture me. The story didn't capture me, and again, I think Cillian Murphy is great. I think all the actors in here are great. Like I said, I think it's scary. Like I said, I think it is intense and visceral, and it is unique in a sense, but the visuals just don't work for me that much. And coming in at number 3 is 28 Weeks Later. I actually watched this for the first time a couple of days ago, and I thought it was fine. I think it kind of in a way feels fillerish in a way. And again, I think there are some good things about it. I like the addition of Jeremy Renner in here, Rose Byrne's good in here. Idris Elba doesn't have a big role in here, but I was surprised to see him. I didn't know he was in this one, but it was cool to see him in here. And this one I feel like is more gory than the first one. It is more visceral. It is definitely more intense and more scary. And while I'm not the biggest fan of how this one's directed either, the visual, just the way it's directed, I'm not just the biggest fan of it. I know it was 2007, I think it released. It's very dated. When you watch it, you're like, oh, and I've only seen it once a couple of days ago, but I was like, oh, this is dated. Like, this is like, oh, I don't know about this, but there are some good things about it. But the same thing, couldn't get connected to the story, just like the first one. Could not get connected to the overall narrative or story. But the reason I think it's better than the first one, it is slightly better than the original. I think it does have while I'm not the biggest fan of the visuals in here as well, just like the first one, it does have a better visual style than the first one. And I think it is more visceral, it is more intense than the first one. And coming in at number 2 is 28 Years Later. This one has the modern touch, and this one was one of my most anticipated movies of last year, but it also was one of my most disappointing movies of last year. I didn't hate it, but I just walked out kind of underwhelmed by it, because at that time I didn't know anything about this franchise besides knowing that it was a zombie, franchise, and besides knowing of the franchise, but I just was underwhelmed. And I think there are some good things about it. There are some things I really liked about it. I think, while it at times does feel small scale, the scope and scale feels small, mostly it feels big, and it feels big. The scope and scale feel massive, even though it feels small at times. It does feel massive at times as well, And I think Aaron Taylor-Johnson in here is really great. I think Alfie Williams' Spike is an incredible and impeccable performance, and Ralph Fiennes absolutely knocks it out of the park, and he honestly gives close enough to an Oscar performance. It's not, obviously, I don't know if he got nominated. I don't think he did, but he gave a great performance, and I think Jodie Comer in here is really great. Everybody in here is great, and you actually, I feel like, get a little bit more lore in here. They like add to the lore, which is really good, and it is more visceral, it is more intense and creepy, and it has that modern touch. And I think the visual aesthetic and visual atmosphere, how it's directed, the editing is definitely better than the other two, 28 Days and Weeks. But at the same time, I know I always say, I'm gonna say it again, Danny Boyle, great director, but I understand he's a nuanced and unique director, but I don't like the way, like, I just don't, it's not the way I would direct the film. That's what I'm trying to say. That's what I'm trying to, like, give to y'all, like, say to y'all. It just doesn't work for me. It doesn't work for me. And there's a lot of in here, a lot of logical choices that I'm not the biggest fan of, that I didn't really appreciate. There's a lot of directing choices in here, editing choices, and just narrative and logical choices that I just wasn't the biggest fan of. But coming in at number 1, my favorite film in the franchise, the 28 Days or Years Later franchise, is 28 Years Later, The Bone Temple. And I actually had my review. I posted my review a couple of days ago. It's up here somewhere if you want to go check that out. Go like, comment, share that video. I would appreciate it a lot. But this one is the first one that I really loved. Like, I really enjoyed it, and I kind of already want to watch it again. I don't know if I'll go back to the theater to watch it. I kind of want to. I'm not gonna lie about that. But this is the first one that I gave this one a 4 out of 5 stars. The other 3 I gave like a 3.5 out of 5 stars. But this one is so fun. It is so fun. You have to see it with the crowd. And one of the things I love about this one is that there are so many unexpected and random needle drops in here that surprisingly work, and the needle drops in here are really great. The score, you know, the 28 Years Later score, you know what it sounds like. It's great. It's great in here, and the sound design is booming. Like, when the movie opens, like right from the get-go, it has a black screen and you hear screaming, and then it gets quiet. The sound is, it's loud. It is loud, but I absolutely loved it. And I think the pacing in here is great. And, you know, while this one does, the scope and scale they both feel massive and big in here. At times it does feel small as well, but mainly big in here. It does feel like a self-contained film as well, which is not a bad thing by any means. I think that's a good thing. That's one of the good things about it. And I think it is the best in the franchise. And, you know, I actually felt like this movie and the characters in here, the characters had personality. I felt like the movie as a whole by itself had personality as well. It is one of those things, since I was disappointed with 28 Years Later, but I absolutely love this one. It's like with 28 Years Later, it's like when you cook a steak and you try it and you're like, oh, this just tastes dry and bland. But then you cook a second steak, you're like, okay, I'm gonna cook this one, hopefully it turns out better. And you try it and you're like, oh, this one's way better. Like, I taste the flavor, I taste that flavor, you know. And I really think that if you like 28 Years Later, I think you might like this one. If you didn't like that one, you probably won't like this one. But I'm someone who didn't really like 28 Years Later, and I love this one, so I'm kind of on the opposite end, you know. But I really think it's visually fantastic. I think it's actually directed well. Nia DaCosta actually used a camera for this one, used an actual camera, so I could actually see what was going on, and I could just like see all the amazing visuals, whether it's the cinematography, the visual aesthetic, the atmosphere, the color grading, you know. I really think it's the best in the franchise. So that'll wrap up this video. Thank you all so much for watching. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe, like, comment, share this video. We just hit 1K subs a while back. We're now at 1.2K, and the next big milestone is 2K and 3K after that. Beyond that as well, if you're new as well, I do movie reviews, TV show reviews, trailer reactions, movie live streams, movie news, movie rankings, all that wonderful movie stuff under the movie umbrella. And let's talk about it in the comments down below. What is y'all's favorite movie in the franchise? What is y'all's least favorite movie in the franchise? Is it 28 Days Later? Is it 28 Weeks Later? Is it The Bone Temple? Is it 28 Years Later? Let's talk about it down below. Keep talking movies, wonderful people. Cheers.